The whole time J.J. McCarthy's been a Viking, the whole thing has felt abnormal. So why can't we be normal about it? Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day every single day. I appreciate my hashtag everydayers so very much. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Today on the show, we are going to preview the Ravens game. I've got the Zoever under. We got your bold predictions. We got a lot to get to. But first, I just wanted to start by kind of piggybacking off of something. You all know Tyler Forness. He's on for Forno Fridays during draft time and during training camp. And I do a show with him on Wednesdays on his channel on Vikings First in School. That's like a film show. And he posted this thread on social media venting about the coverage of J.J. McCarthy. And he got like relentlessly dunked on. And it kind of made me realize that the way that the Vikings have been covered in the last 18 months or so has been completely insane. And I've complained about this quite a bit. And I'm not going to relitigate all of the different rumors and noise and conspiracy theories that have gone around because they've all been wrong. But it makes me ask the question, why is it so weird around this kid? Is it because he's weird? He is weird. He is a supremely weird guy. He's talking about the wolf inside of him, and he's got his little like mechanic thing with his own name on it. That was like a gift from Jim Harbaugh that he wears after the win in Michigan. He's just like a constant fountain of like motivational quotes you would hear from somebody who's about to try to sell you a meme coin. Like is it that why? Is it because he's just a weird dude? I think it makes it easy to riff on, like it makes him kind of easy to make fun of, but in a way I find harmless. Is it the Michigan thing that he is sort of synonymous with this extraordinarily controversial Michigan season that pisses everyone off no matter what side of that issue they're on, because Michigan won the championship, but they also had the Calling Our Stallions thing going on, and J.J. McCarthy was kind of a passenger in that seat. Is that why? But it seems like we just cannot be normal. You have, on one hand, you have like Tom Brady during that game, who was just unabashedly biased toward J.J. McCarthy. And I know Matt Derry complained about that too on his post-game podcast. Don't blame him. And a lot of like more neutral national people complained about how much credit Tom Brady was giving him for things and how he was going a little over the top. Personally, I'm not going to complain about it because of what we've heard from the other side for months and months and months. I mean, even when, like before J.J. McCarthy was a Viking, the rumors around the combine, and you can go listen to my shows during that time to get a reminder, because I remember this vividly, were that the Vikings were really, really high on J.J. McCarthy. And then when McCarthy gets drafted, suddenly a rumor crops up out of nowhere that they actually liked Penix better, and they panicked and picked McCarthy basically sight unseen, which is just demonstrably untrue. They were so into him, and unless that was a crazy smokescreen, but I don't really trust the Vikings to do a smokescreen at the combine. I don't think they're very good at smokescreens at the combine, because also at that combine, it had become clear they weren't bringing back Kirk Cousins, and the same thing kind of happened with Sam Darnold last year at the combine. They're not very good at keeping secrets at the combine. I don't think that they're good enough to pull that kind of smokescreen off. But you know, throughout McCarthy being hurt, and then rumors start to swirl about like his maturity, and through this offseason, you know, a million rumors. They're going to go with Darnold. They're going to go with Daniel Jones. They're going to go with Aaron Rodgers. They're going to go with Joe Flacco. Now they're going to go with Carson Wentz. They're going to go with Max Brosmer. They're going to go with Kyler Murray. They're going to bring Kirk Cousins back. I have heard so many rumors about all the different ways the Vikings are going to get out from this big J.J. McCarthy disaster. And meanwhile, every message out of the team has been, we believe in this kid. We're going to ride with them. Every player, every coach, they're all in unison. Yeah, maybe they're all coached to say that. I don't know how much they mean it. But I kind of believe him, because when they don't like a player, that player doesn't play. I mean, we saw that with Lewis Seen. We saw that with Brian Asamoah. Like, we saw these guys ousted from the organization and without much of an apology for it. So this weird idea that, like, there's this conspiracy to, like, save face about JJ McCarthy, to hide how really truly bad he is just as insane to me as what everybody was annoyed about with Tom Brady in that game. We don't get Tom Brady in this one, so you all are free from your shackles, I guess. But I guess the question becomes, why can't we just be normal about JJ McCarthy? Why can't we just look at the way he played and evaluate it and say, this is what it's happening, and apply the necessary contexts, right? I don't think in any other world we look at not even the first 100 dropbacks of a guy and try to close the book on him. We're usually a little better about it. I mean, like, not always, right? Like, we want to close the book on guys by week 3 of their rookie seasons, like, a lot of the time. But that's functionally where we're at with 2 injuries in between. Maybe that's why we can't be normal about it, because there was so much waiting that we got bored and we made stuff up. Actually, I think I'm going to go with that. I think people get bored when they wait, and it combines with people who just think JJ McCarthy is cringe or that he didn't deserve a college championship, and they get, like, angry that they think he's like a psyop. But all it does is just take away from honest analysis of a quarterback. And I'm trying to bring you that here and on my Patreon page too, where I've gone over just about every dropback that he's had from preseason to regular season and most of his college games too. But I guess I have a request for everybody from, national media on TV to smaller time podcasters like myself, whether you cover the Vikings and you're deep in it, or you're national and can we just, like, chill? Just all chill a little bit, whether you like McCarthy or not. I'm not asking everybody to say McCarthy's God's next gift to quarterback. I don't think you should do that. You should treat him like a young quarterback that's learning things and assign a proper amount of, we'll call it margin for error, right? Margin for change. Rather than just saying, wow, look at how bad that EPA was. Guess he's dead. Like, that's kind of what I've heard from a lot of, like, the podcast cognoscenti. We don't have to be that extreme, and we don't have to be that extreme the other way. And I think the Vikings are a little guilty of this too, of, like, making it seem like this guy is like the alpha Dommy wolf. We don't need to do that. We don't need to can we all just be a little less weird about it? Like, that Lions game to me was a pretty normal young QB game. Pretty good stuff. A lot of talented things happened. Made some mistakes, especially on the, organizing the team and leading all these guys that are older than you. And then I look at where social media is, and people are calling it the worst quarterback. They're calling him the worst quarterback in the league by 10 million miles, or that he's the next, like, second coming of Jesus. And it's like, can everyone just relax? Can we just chill, please? We don't have to be like this. We don't have to live like this. Okay, enough complaining about the media here on a media product. I'll give you one thing about the Ravens. We'll go into the betting lines and stuff, but I'll give you one thing about the Ravens. I will get into the reasons in a bit, but the Ravens worry me a lot as a matchup because Lamar Jackson loves to throw to the middle of the field, and Lamar Jackson can run. And it's like, if ever there were a team that is going to look at the Chargers game and say, yummy, yummy, tasty, please more of that. Waiter, more Vikings, please. It's going to be a team that is built to throw over the middle of the field and have the quarterback run. That is just precisely what has happened to the Vikings over the last few weeks. The Lions got plenty of completions over the middle of the field, and the only reason that their quarterback didn't run is because that's not Jared Goff's game, but the opportunities were certainly there, kind of by design, because they knew he couldn't run. But, Jalen Hurts running, Justin Herbert running, it has blasted the Vikings, and the Ravens are built to blast them in the same way. So they're going to have to paper over those issues. They are going to have to find this out, or it's going to get really ugly on defense. And then suddenly you're asking your 22-year-old quarterback to keep up with a 2-time MVP. That's going to be tough. We'll get into more of how everybody thinks that's going to go down next on the Locked On Vikings podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by Mint Mobile. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. If you make the switch, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Mint makes it simple. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text, delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your own phone and keep your same number and contacts. You get all the same quality service that you had before, but for a fraction of the price. And the setup is super easy. You can keep your number and your contacts and everything all there. You're up and running in minutes. So if you are ready to say yes to saying no, make the switch at mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. That's mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for the first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Tax and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. This episode is also brought to you by Gametime, the best place to find last-minute tickets. The NFL season is here, and the Vikings are finally back at home, and that means it's time to get to US Bank Stadium if you can. And Gametime sure as heck makes it easier. Buying tickets sucks. You are constantly dealing with hidden fees and sketchy back alleys and stuff. It is so hard to just get in line and get a ticket without having to wait. And then what are the actual hidden fees? Can I actually get these seats? If you're not at US Bank, am I going to get stuck behind a pillar? Gametime can help you with all of that. Right now, for example, going into this game against the Ravens at US Bank Stadium on Gametime, you can get in the door for 2 tickets for $142 a pop. That includes all of the fees and everything, get in the door price. And if you want really good seats, you can get lower bowl, pretty low toward the field for around $300, kind of depends on your preferences. And the app makes it super simple for me to find all of that. It's faster, cheaper, and way less stressful than any other way I bought tickets. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Moving on with the Locked On Vikings podcast, it's time to look at some betting lines and see just what the world thinks of this game. It is time for the Zoever Under. Today on the Zoever Under, we do not have a favored Vikings. I can tell you that much. People are very, very down on the Vikings. I think the betting markets have caught up to the narratives. I thought that the betting was pretty high on the Vikings, especially after they eked one out against the Browns, and it was weirdly high on the Eagles. And now they're home underdogs by 4.5. That has found an equilibrium at minus 114 for Vikings plus 4.5. Over under is 48.5. So that's something like a 24 or a 26-22 kind of game, or if you want normal numbers, 27-21 would be a little closer. That is what we're looking at. 48.5 is a pretty high over-under. I mean, the Ravens defense has been struggling, as has the Vikings, so the possibility of a shootout is definitely represented here, and it's also represented in the individual props. So, if we always look at the passing props with J.J. McCarthy and Lamar Jackson, Lamar's is at 221.5. That's a reasonably high, but not crazy high total. And McCarthy's is at 208.5. And basically anything under 210 is a pretty low number. FanDuel won't often push it under 200, even though JJ McCarthy has not yet crossed 150 passing in his 2-year career, which is a wonderfully bad faith way to say that. Similarly, over 1.5 passing touchdowns for JJ McCarthy, plus 102, more or less even odds. He had his Atlanta game where he didn't get any touchdowns, and he's had a couple where he's thrown 2 touchdowns. So that I think is fair. And Lamar Jackson's is at minus 188. That also seems pretty fair. So what I'm getting at is, as much as the coverage around McCarthy has painted him as either the worst thing to ever puke on a football field or this, the next big thing, it is a little more tempered by the betting market. And so while the people who clamor for your attention are maybe saying some outlandish things, the general public, I think, understands that this is just kind of going to be not that prolific of a passing game, but not in a way that's going to set a bajillion records of how horrific and horrible it is, and he's the worst quarterback we've seen in 10 years. That's not what the general public is going for. And of course, going up against the Ravens, there's going to be a little inflation to that as well, because a lot of people have put up a lot of passing on the Ravens. Last week, we had the rare occurrence of Justin Jefferson not having the highest receiving total. This is not going to be the case this time. He's at 71.5, which is, again, low for him. He has put up more than that on average this year. I believe that's still true. And the next one is Zay Flowers, who has 66.5. Zay Flowers has been very much the main receiving option for Lamar Jackson. He is the one that the passing offense really flows through. And he is also the one that gets a lot of that middle of the field production. So if you are worried about the middle of the field, chances are it's either Zay Flowers or one of the tight ends, Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, 32.5, 25.5, respectively. And then we can get to the rushing, which, of course, Lamar Jackson's rushing prop 37.5. That is a medium number for him against a team that has given up quite a bit of rushing. So I'm a little surprised that it's as low as that, but certainly everything can happen. JJ McCarthy actually just got added to this. When we did the squad show, we couldn't find JJ McCarthy's rushing. Since doing the squad show and then me recording this that same night, JJ McCarthy's was added at 18.5, and he likes to run, and they like to run read option and stuff with him. So it makes sense that there would be a serious rushing total, but there is not one for Aaron Jones or Jordan Mason. Of course, with Aaron Jones being questionable, they kind of want to take that out, but they do have a touchdown scorer prop for him and Jordan Mason, both at plus 100, which is perfectly even odds. Bet $1, win 2 back. Like perfect double up odds. The only favored touchdown scorer is Derrick Henry at minus 145, Justin Jefferson at plus 120, Zay Flowers at plus 135. All of this shows me, like, it's not surprising that the Ravens have higher numbers pretty much everywhere except for the Justin Jefferson ones. But I think it surprises me how much the Vikings still are projected to get through this. That the betting market truly isn't looking at the Vikings in the way that we may have done in some time in the last, especially after that Chargers game, which I certainly did, and I don't blame you if you did too, as this like kind of DOA offense, that there still will be some production. And of course, the struggles the Ravens have had on that side of the ball are influencing this as well. But as Kevin told us on the crossover, the recent defense has been a lot better than it was early in the season. And so the question becomes about, do the Ravens have the solution to their problems already? And do the Vikings have the solution to their problems already, right? If you wanted to pull up the big Cope angle about the Vikings, you could, I think, paint a reasonable picture that the Vikings had a really tough travel schedule and didn't handle it properly, right? They had their double international game thing, and they played a couple of sluggish games overseas, and then they came back and they had their bye, but the Eagles were coming off a Thursday night game, so they didn't even have that much of a rest advantage, and then they got to go Thursday night West Coast, and they look sluggish there. And once they got a normal rest, even though they were playing the Lions, who were coming off of more rest, they got a normal week of practice. That's, I think, the big one, right? It's not international travel. You're not practicing in a soccer field somewhere in rural London. You're just normal practice, game on Sunday. The Vikings looked a lot better. Normal practice, game on Sunday. You also got the Bears game, or normal practice game on Monday. But normal practice schedule has happened twice, and it was at Bears, at Lions. Those are the two games where they have practiced normally all season long. The rest of it had some interruption or some weirdness, whether it's like short week dynamics or something by international travel. That's truly it. And I guess the Eagles game too, coming off the bye, unless you think that they were maybe still a little bit kind of gassed from their long, grueling international trip, which again would be a flimsy excuse if you went for it. But you could kind of put together this narrative that travel messed them up for a month and a half. And now they just took it to the Lions. Now that things are finally normal, maybe they're a different team. And they're all a lot healthier as well, right? Everybody's back. We're not doing the Carson Wentz thing. You could certainly make that argument. And I think the betting market is respecting that to some degree, that there could still be this iteration of the Vikings that is still here and competitive and part of the 2025 NFL season, and not the bottom 5 team that they had been coming off of that Chargers game. The one other thing we have to do during the Zoever Under is actually watch Zoe and Zeddy pick the games. And let me tell you, this one got particularly dramatic. So sometimes when I put the veg down for them to pick, they don't come down right away. They can be a bit difficult to coax. So I'll actually make a sound that sounds like some other food that they get very excited about. And then they'll finally make their way down. But what was interesting is when Zoe came down for it, she was not satisfied with what was in front of her. I think she wanted what came out of the bag that I had made the sound from. That didn't stop Zeddy from going right over to pick the Vikings, but Zoe did not pick. She sniffed around it, but she did not actually take from the pile, which is what it takes. Eventually, she had to go all the way around the plate and then kind of do-si-do and do something else so that she could pick Baltimore. An extremely choosy rabbit. But she does ultimately pick the Baltimore Ravens -4.5. Now, here's the thing. Both of these rabbits are ice cold. One of them is going to get off of their losing streak right now, but they're both on a 2-game losing streak. Zoe is at 5-3. Zeddy is at an even 4-4. So this could actually tie up if the Vikings cover. Next up, your bold predictions. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by PrizePicks, the best way to play daily fantasy football. If you are, say, watching a complete and total slop fest between two AFC teams you don't otherwise care about, like the Raiders and Broncos, PrizePicks is a great way to get in on that action. Whether you are watching an NFL game, an NBA game, or both in a multi-view at the same time, there's no better way to jump into the action. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere PrizePicks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. They also have a new stacks feature where you can pick more on multiple things for the same player, like Steph Curry's more than on points, threes, and assists all in the same lineup, or more on Justin Jefferson's yards and touchdowns. And if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot can save your lineup from an unfair loss. It'll just kind of kick it right out of there and continue as though you never added that player. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. It is time for your bold predictions here on the Locked On Vikings podcast, and you guys have some very, very fun ones. A lot of people tried to do one with Odin's 2 Ravens, which makes a lot of sense. And I had to pick just one, but we'll get to that one at the end. First things first, we got to go to last week's, and we had another hit. The ones that didn't hit, Matt Derry tried to say that David Montgomery would have a touchdown pass. We didn't get there. Shadow said that McCarthy would lead the Vikings to an upset victory, which did happen, but with a passer rating over 120, which did not. JJ2JJ all the way said that Justin Jefferson would get 2 touchdowns and over 130 yards. Casey the Coolest said that this would be known as the Andrew Van Ginkel game. He did have a good game, but not quite there. Nate Jelson said that the Vikings would possess the ball for less than 20 minutes of game time, which happened in the Chargers game, so he thought that would repeat. Ed the Duck said that the Vikings would finish with 3 sacks and 2 interceptions and hold the Lions to 17 or less and win the game. You got the most important one of those correct. Well, no, you got more than 3 sacks. We got that, and they won the game, so you were 2-2 there. Bronos Football said that Max Brosmer would finish the game. 1991 Ford Tempo Enthusiast said that there would be at some point an 8-5 score because of how the streaks works. And Milo Grams had a big, long, weird one that said that the Vikings would turn the ball over 5 times to the Lions 6. Or no, they would win despite having 3+ turnovers. I don't think there were. No, there's the 1 interception, right? But that was it. The one that hit came from Bradley Knorr, who said that JJ McCarthy would have 3 touchdowns. I think you meant 3 passing touchdowns, but you didn't write that, and I did not make it specify. So I am absolutely giving this to you on the back of the rushing touchdown. It would be very lame if I didn't. So Bradley Knorr, you know how to reach me, lockedonvikingspodcast@gmail.com, or hit me on Blue Sky, or you can just submit it to the question doc if you want. $20 to a charity of your choice. And then give me an email that I can send that's attached to your Patreon account that I can gift a link to for 3 months free of patreon.com/LukeBrownNFL. Congratulations. Let's go to the next week of bold predictions. The first one comes from Zimmer's Racehorse, who says, to honor the memory of Vikings legend Mike Hughes, picks 2 spots before Lamar. Any individual Vikings will have 2 picks, also matching Hughes' total as a Viking. Skull Train 87 says that the Vikings Ravens has had this alternate. Okay, so a bunch of you tried to do one with this. For those that don't know, there's this curse that the Vikings and when the Vikings play the Ravens, depending on if they win or lose that game, they either go to the NFC Championship or fire their head coach. And this goes all the way back to Denny Green. I think they played the Ravens in 98 and they went to the NFC Championship. And then they played the Ravens in 2001, lost, fired Denny Green. The same thing happened in 2005 with Mike Tice. 2009, went to the NFC Championship, played the Ravens, won that game, lost to the Ravens. In 2013, Leslie Frazier was fired. And then same thing in 2027 or in 2017 and then 2021. So as this streak has held, we're watching this with great interest. Like when you watch the last Commanders game before a presidential election, we're watching this with great unserious interest. But the bold prediction attached to this actually has to do with a different Vikings-Ravens trend, which is that there's a lot of special teams stuff. There was a Cordero Patterson kick return in the Vikings-Ravens game in 2017. 10 of the 12 scoring plays were field goals. There was the Kene Nwangwu kick return touchdown in 2021. So the bold prediction from Skull Train 87 is that all of the scoring plays in the game will come from special teams. That's field goals, punt returns, kick returns, etc., blocked kicks, etc. PFF's random number generator says that the Vikings and Ravens are the only NFL teams with the letter V in their team names. And because the Roman numeral V means 5, each team will score exactly 5 times, specifying that extra points and 2-point conversions are not their own are not their own separate scores. They're attached to the touchdowns attached to them. Casey the Coolest says that purple is often described as the color of royalty due to its high cost to make, since teams spent all their money on their purple uniforms. No player with an average annual value over 12 million will score a touchdown, excluding passing touchdowns, of course. So that does mean that any Lamar rushing touchdown breaks you, but not a Lamar Jackson passing touchdown. It has to be players under 12 million average annual value. Let's take a quick look at who that means. That actually does count Derrick Henry and Zay Flowers. So that's not that bold on the Ravens side, to be honest. And Rashad Bateman and is Mark Andrews under 12? Barely isn't. So Mark Andrews would break this. But with the Vikings, that would mean what? Like no Justin Jefferson, no TJ Hawkinson. I think Aaron Jones. Yeah, Aaron Jones is comfortably under. Jordan Mason is comfortably under. Addison is still on a rookie contract. So this one actually isn't all that bold. I'm going to have to lower the number here. I'm going to have to lower it to under 8 million average annual value, because that gets rid of like Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones and like some of the, usually it basically means only rookie contracts or like, Josh Oliver's and such if he even plays. Ken Levin says the Ravens base their names off of the Edgar Allan Poe narrative poem from 1845. You probably know it well. So the bold prediction is that whoever wins it, the score will be 45-18 to represent the author himself. I like that one. I usually don't do exact score ones because I think that's a lame, like it's just kind of, it's not really, there's not a take attached to it. It's only bold and unlikely because of the specificity, but that's cute. I'll take it. Brosmer ain't playing this week, says, I think Bro Knows was doing a lot of Brosmer stuff. Trying to make that happen, but now it seems pretty clear that Brosmer could play if he twists his ankle again, but he says that the Vikings will have a hat trick of offensive, special teams, and defensive touchdowns. And the last one I'm going to do today comes from Existential Shred, who says, one of the many gods in the Vikings pantheon was Odin, who every day would send 2 ravens, Hugin and Munin, to fly all across the earth, and at the end of the day, return to him with all of the valuable information that they gathered. Many of you submitted bold predictions about this, which I adore. I absolutely love that this is where everybody's like going to the mythology to try to find a bold prediction that I like. I love that. I've trained you well. To represent their daily vigil, Existential Shred predicts that 2 Ravens receivers will catch for at least a combined 247 yards. Is this a 24/7 thing because they do it every day? Is that why you picked 247? That's a very bold number. For example, the top FanDuel lines for Baltimore Ravens are 66.5 for Zay Flowers, and the next one is 32.5 for Mark Andrews. So that doesn't even combine into 100. That combines to 99 yards. So 247 between those two, or if it's somebody else, it's even less likely. Maybe it's likely. That is an extremely bold line. And my eyes skipped one. Peter Larson, I did pick yours out, and I'm sorry, who said the last time I made a prediction was 2023 Vikings-Broncos game, where I predicted there will be more total yards and field goals than more passing yards. Ironically, the last time this happened in the NFL was Vikings at Ravens in 2017. It will happen again this Sunday. So 2 of them could hit. If the one that says like it's only field goals hits, or it's only special teams hits, you could very well see the more yards and field goals. This one is a little more likely than it used to be because of how kickoffs have made drives on average start from further up. So there's not as much passing yardage to get between both teams. And that means it's easier to get a field goal. So you could have these instances of, 15 yards passing, drive stalls out, kick 55-yard field goal. Becomes a little bit more common. I will see you all on the other side of this one. Of course, after the game, I'll be live on the Squad Show right here on Locked On Vikings and on Locked On Minnesota Sports, and we'll go up on the podcast feeds afterwards. And of course, a regular show on Monday morning, as always. I will see you all for all of that. And as always,